Welcome to the Hustle and Flow podcast,
a platform we use to explore varying perspectives and opinion through candid conversation.
We chat about philosophy, business, and all things life. I'm Shaun the Hustle.
And I'm Les the Flow.
Let's go. Adam is the co-founder and CEO of Sportility, the first platform globally of its kind that brings sports people, teams, and businesses together to get access to sponsorship and marketing opportunities, and to live by the mission to democratize grassroots sports sponsorship by connecting businesses to teams. They currently support over 80,000 plus sports people across Australia and the USA. He is also a startup mentor for Start-Up Bootcamp, a global network of industry-focused accelerators who take startups global by giving direct access to an international network of partners, investors, and mentors. Adam is someone who has had many years of experience in business development and management and has used his knowledge and experience gained to create and found a number of businesses for over 10 years. So with that, welcome today, Adam.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, Adam. And Shaun's given us a bit of a high-level view of who you are, but I'd love to give you the floor, mate, and just for you to share with our audience, I guess, a little bit more about who Adam Hyman is and how you've come to be the man you are today, mate.
Absolutely. Well, I think like many stories of business leaders or entrepreneurs in whether it be the startup space or the business space, it really starts from the origin stories of a child, really. So for me, my origin story is really around when I grew up as a kid in the lower North Shore of Sydney. Basketball was my number one sport. It was the sport that I was given at the age of 4. I very vividly remember being handed a basketball, and that ball never really left my hands from the ages of 4. And I played basketball my whole life. I guess if you look through primary school, high school, photographs all the way through to the stories from friends and family, basketball was the thing that I lived, eat, slept, and breathed. And essentially that journey for me really started off by playing club basketball, representative basketball, and then being offered an opportunity to play basketball in high school in the United States. And that opportunity led me to my ultimate dream, where I wanted to be playing college basketball and ultimately, ideally, like every naive 17 or 18-year-old kid in the NBA. But essentially, for me, that didn't quite work out, and I was really faced for the first time with a high level of adversity, and I was placed in a high school where it was not the lower North Shore of Sydney. It was in an area that was in the west coast of the United States that was made up predominantly of a trailer park and a lower socioeconomic demographic. And the school coming from Sydney, we had 12,500 students at it, all the way through to the school in the United States being just 120 students. So for me, that was a real culture shock. But more importantly, I was faced with, for the first time, I'm an Australian Jewish individual. And for the first time, I was dealt with anti-Semitism and also this feeling of being on the outside, on the outside of the crowd. So for the first time in my life, I was actually faced with this experience of being cast as an outsider, and I actually decided to come home. So I was there for a grand total of 6 months, I think, maybe even less than that. And I decided to come home and almost put my dream of being in the NBA or college basketball on hold, and come home and really put me in a really difficult position. I was actually quite depressed for a while, and it was quite a negative time in my life. And the reason why I tell that story is because that story is what has taught me a lot of the perseverance and passion that I have now for business and following my career and my dreams without actually giving up. So in that moment, that was the first time in my life that I was faced with adversity. And my first reaction was to give up. I'd been given this great life on the lower North Shore of Sydney, but I actually chose to give up when I was faced with adversity for the first time in my life. And from then on, I came back to Australia and started a basketball coaching and personal training business, and that went on to scale to hundreds of kids and provide clinics and coaching opportunities for kids all over the North Shore of Sydney. But really, where we've had the success is I've built a business called Sportility, which connects grassroots sporting teams to brands for sponsorship, and that's really where we are today.
Awesome! Thanks so much, man, for sharing your story with us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you filled us in on that early part of your life, and of why that's important to you and how it's brought you to where you are. And I think it would be pretty hard, I just want to ask you a few more questions about that time in your life, So like when you went over to the US, were you by yourself? Did anyone with your family come with you? And how did that come about? Because, having this beautiful life, it sounds like, on the lower North Shore, and then going all the way to the US to a place that's like clearly very different from how you described it. I'm just wondering, like, what sort of support you had, if any, when you made that move.
Yeah, look, I obviously had the support of my friends and family, but it was really a journey that I embarked on myself. I really wanted to play basketball in the United States. That was my dream. My parents essentially said, if that's the dream that you want to follow, go and make that happen. So I sourced the school, the program. I had to go through an exchange program to get over to the United States. And while I was over there was really, it was a new world. I had no friends over there. I went through an exchange program that really sort of placed me and dropped me into the United States, and then sort of said, okay, off you go, you're on your own. So for me, it was a pretty daunting experience to be placed into a high school with really no friends or family in the area.
Yep. And how old were you when you made that move?
I was actually 17.
17.
So I think I just turned 18 when I landed in the US. So
okay, wow.
So yeah, as a 17, 18-year-old, making that move and making the call to go over to the US and sort of leave friends and family and follow that dream was something that I did from a pretty early age.
Yeah. And did you kind of have that attitude growing up? You just kind of went after whatever you set your mind to, or is that something you developed through basketball?
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that I learnt through basketball. Basketball is one of those sports that you really have to be taught that perseverance, that team mentality, and if you want it, you essentially go after, whether it's a starting spot, whether it's the particular spot on the court, or a particular spot in a team. It was certainly something that I learned early on. But for me, I was certainly fortunate enough throughout my I guess childhood, when I tried out for teams, I made teams. And for the very first time I guess in the United States, when things didn't go my way, my first reaction was to give up. It was, oh, this is going to be too hard. This is the real world. This is going to be too hard. I should just come home back to the leafy green suburbs of the lower North Shore. And for me, that was a pretty daunting experience really early on as a ripe old 17, 18-year-old.
That's it's such an interesting contrast, and I want to sort of delve down that thread a little bit more, mate. So you're saying the contrast between, life as you knew it, in Sydney versus when you went over to the States, and it was just like a huge culture shock for you. Like, tell us more about that experience, mate. Like, what were you thinking when you got over there, and how did that make you feel? And I guess tell us about, that first time when you actually felt that, that knockback and what that did to you, mate.
Yeah, look, it was an experience that for me, it's every feeling in your body that you can't explain unless you're going through that experience to the day. So, as I remember getting there, that sickness in my stomach, that I'd just left all my friends, I'd left my family. I was in a world that I didn't know. Quite literally, I remember the very first time I was, I landed at the school, and I was invited over to one of the kids' houses that, it was arranged by the school so that I could start making friends, essentially. And I was invited over to this kid's house, and we went to his house. And we grow up in houses. We're fortunate here in Australia that there is a lot of poverty, but there is quite a majority of Australians live in. We have a really, really good quality of life. And the first experience for me was walking to this child's house, and we got there, and it was a trailer. It wasn't a house. It was a trailer on bricks, and we walk inside, and you can literally spin around and do a 360-degree tour of the house. And that for me was that first shock of, wow, this is a different life. This is a different life that we don't live in Australia. Well, I didn't at the time experience. And the reason why I like to tell that story, and I like to share that, is that's what taught me the perseverance. That's what taught me that it's not all sunshine and rainbows when you have a dream and a vision to get something done, or follow or chase a path that you want to go down. And so for me, I always come back to that experience and that feeling that I have of when something isn't going our way, that it's just a moment in time. It's a moment in time that you can either choose to roll up your sleeves and work hard, or you can actually jump on that plane and go home, and potentially live your life with regret for the rest of your life. And for me, that's the piece that I always come back to with business, with the businesses that I run, or the journeys that I go down. It's always that feeling of, will that sickness in your stomach make you work hard? Will that feeling of you're in an unknown land make you work hard? Or will you just jump on that plane and go home? And I guess I can draw that parallel. If I fast forward 10 years in the story, I launched Sportility. We grew it pretty quickly. We were invited by the Australian Trade and Investment Commission to go to San Francisco, be one of 10 businesses to be a part of the landing pad program in San Francisco. And for probably the second time in my life, I was faced with being in an unknown city by myself, faced with launching our business into the United States and scaling the business into the United States. Now, while I was in San Francisco, it wasn't easy. We were quite literally living on that poverty line, not paying ourselves very much, and living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. But I kept on coming back every single night to that feeling of when I was in high school, of, do you want to jump on that plane and go home? Or do you want to keep working, keep pushing for the next meeting, pushing for the next deal, just keep working hard, essentially. So yeah, that's really stuck with me my whole life. And I carry that with me through business every day.
It's a powerful lesson that you can derive from, and be able to have the awareness to look back at a certain, moment in time to see what that lesson is trying to teach you, and it's brilliant to hear you, I guess, use that as a reference point going forward to how you operate your business. But on the I guess topic of your business now, tell us a little bit more about Sportility and what you do and what it's all about, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sportility essentially started off as a grassroots teamwear brand. We essentially launched to solve the problem with grassroots sporting teams that face over-promising and under-delivering from the grassroots sports teamwear industry. More often than not, when I was running my grassroots sporting clubs, those brands would overpromise and underdeliver. So if ever my teamwear would arrive, it would be wrong, the sizes would be wrong, the colors would be wrong, or it would just turn up late. So we originally set up to solve that problem. We built a platform that enabled those grassroots sporting teams to design their teamwear in 3D, and instead of chasing up names, numbers, sizes, and payments from their teams, we essentially collected all of that information on their behalf to make the administration nice and easy. As we scaled, we listened to our customers. All of our customers were saying to us that the problem that they had wasn't so much the administration. That was one part of it, but it was also the funding and getting access to sponsorship. The other side of that was our corporate providers or corporate organizations that we were providing teamwear to. They wanted to market to grassroots sports. So in January of 2018, we listened to the feedback from our customers, and we pivoted our business to essentially connect those grassroots sporting teams to brands for sponsorship. And the way that we did that was through our first product that we launched, which was Gear Lab, which enabled teams to go online, design their teamwear in 3D, and then literally click a sponsor logo to reduce the cost of their teamwear. What that enabled was, instead of grassroots sporting clubs paying $60 for their teamwear, when they placed 3 sponsor logos on their kit, that essentially enabled the teamwear to come down to $15. So what we started doing was enabling brands to connect with grassroots sports at scale, at mass, placing logos on teamwear, but also grassroots sporting clubs connecting to national and global brands that they otherwise would not have been able to get access to.
Yeah, it's really clever, man. And
I appreciate it.
you know, my mind's just going with all the benefits of that, and it actually sounds like a great model for everybody involved. You know, for the teams, for the businesses. You know, the 3 of us here, we all run our own businesses, and you know, I can think of a plethora of benefits that come out of that. And also, I think it's really clever in terms of you know, I think about if I was running a sports team and was going on creating my uniform and then saw the brands, you're going to choose the brands you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't think you're going to choose a brand that you don't like just to bring the cost down, because you're going to be wearing it for the season at least.
Exactly.
So I think there's a really smart, you know, synergy there in some way, so that the team selects it, they get a good benefit, and the business knows that that team actually likes their products. And
exactly.
Then, yeah, it's really cool. And then where do the businesses go from there? Is there anything they can do moving forward with those teams? Because obviously they know that the team likes them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really nice piece that we've actually taken out in terms of customer feedback through the platform. Originally, the logo placement was different dollar values, and people were just choosing logos because of the one that had the greatest dollar value brought the price down. So what we did was we actually democratized the price. So we made it a standard $15 price point across all of our logos. And then what we started seeing was those individuals choosing, like you say, the brands that they like, the brands that they want to align themselves to. So once we saw that, we then enabled the brands to provide offers and incentives to not only acquire that customer, but continue to nurture that customer to ongoing. So whether they become an actual active customer or that they become an advocate. So a lot of the brands on our platform are providing cashback offers. So for example, if you complete a survey, if you download an app, or you sign up for a subscription, some of those brands are actually providing cashback offers to those individuals or the club when they complete those particular activities. And then essentially what we're providing the brands, not too dissimilar from a Facebook or a LinkedIn or Google AdWords, is we're providing a complete solution for those brands around marketing. So how they're targeting, how many people are wearing their logos in grassroots sports, what are the ages, genders, geolocations, and sports that those logos have been placed on, and then what's the engagement with your brand, who's viewed, clicked, opened, shared, or more importantly, converted as a customer on the platform. So what it's doing is taking the old approach of grassroots sports marketing or grassroots sponsorship and turning it into grassroots sports marketing by providing the brands with a tangible return on investment. And then when those brands have a tangible return on investment, then more money flows back to grassroots sports. which, as we all know, in this COVID climate is the topic of discussion. How do they survive? So we've found ourselves quite relevant during this period.
That's really cool, man. It's really cool. And I think another thing that sounds really great about it is that, you've taken this concept of sponsorship and changed it to like grassroots sports marketing, which benefits a lot of people. And that's really cool, because I guess, if I think about it, back in the days, we've had different sports teams we've played on and stuff. And, I've been involved in the uniform aspect of certain teams, much younger days. But it's like, you're just wondering, these uniforms are really expensive, and can I find someone to just whack a logo on so we can bring the cost down? Yeah. But it's like, whoever's going to give you the most. So I think that's really interesting that you democratize the price, because now you actually get the benefit of finding out what people actually like.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And I think there's this, there's a lot of digital aspects that you mentioned, but I think there's still something to this real tangible element of uniforms and the things that you wear, just your sportswear. And, like, you wear it every weekend, you're putting it on your team kit, which, you're proud of. And then your partner or the child's mum washes it, and they're going to be seeing that brand. So, there's lots of touch points. I think it's a really clever model, and I think you should be really proud of what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you're spot on in the respect that grassroots sports and teamwear, there's so much pride associated with the badge of honor, essentially, that you're placing onto your kit, but also the number, the name, the colors. I'm sure you remember the first time you placed your first jersey on whether it was a football jersey or a running singlet. The first time you place that on your body, there's that sense of pride, right? Your head's held high. So you can imagine the kids all over the country, all over the world that are having that impact, that are enabling to wear that really premium quality product with the brands that they know, love, and trust, which we're really excited about. And then not having to have to fork out $60, $90, $80. It's only $15. And the ultimate goal is to completely wipe the line item that is teamwear off the budget of grassroots sporting clubs.
Yeah. That's really cool, man. And it's clear through what you've explained here, and you've been doing it for quite a while, that your business has progressed from different models. So, and you said you actually listen to your clients and the businesses and everything. When you started out, what was the first iteration that you had of Sportility? What did that look like? I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, because I'm non-technical. I'm the non-technical side of Sportility. My business partner is the technical side. He's our CTO and engineer, and he leads our engineering team from a development point of view. But prior to meeting Dan, my business partner, it was just myself. I was running it out of my bedroom, and what I did was I actually built a website using Weebly to essentially create a feeling of I guess grandeur, I guess, if from that perspective. So I created the website, which had all different templates on it. It had a form that you could complete as you go through the templates. So you might say, I want this particular design, and then I want these colors. So you would select the colors. It was complete form-based experience. And then we made it feel like it was automated. So once they hit submit on the form, then that came through and populated a Google Sheet. And then it was me sending the automated email to the customer saying, your order has been received. We're generating your design for you. It'll be back to you in 24 hours. I would then send that to a designer. They would mock that up in 3D, and then we'd send that back to the customer. And here's our platform has generated your design. Here's what it looks like. And then they would go and pay for it. Now, fast forward now, I guess, multiple capital raises and, an engineering team and a sales and marketing team. We believe that we've probably got one of the most advanced 3D design tools in the industry, if not globally. It enables you to simply design your kit in real time in 3D. you can add your logos, you can place sponsor logos on it. We've got a new iteration coming out, which continues to push the boundaries of the platform. But the early days of Sportility was really manual forms. It was in pure form, MVP, minimum viable product. It was, let's get it out. I think it cost me a grand total of $500 in terms of site build, website hosting, domain registration, and then all of the forms and the ads and the apps, the apps and the add-ons from the platform. So yeah, the first iteration was very manual, and we certainly had some really interesting experiences where clubs and teams would go through and complete the form, and provide us with information that led us down this journey. We actually had an experience about 2 years into our journey, where we'd raised a seed round. We had one of our partners in the business sort of walk out. It was wanted to go on a different path and different journey, and it was probably the second time that I was faced with, do I quit and roll up my sleeves, or do I focus on pushing through and persevering? And that's really where Sportility came from. Now, and I guess the most recent iteration was, we were a teamwear brand that we'd built a platform for, and we built a manual solution for. But what did the market want? What did our customers want? And my business partner and I literally went on a journey to ask and talk to as many customers as we could before we built anything. And that's really where the iteration of Sportility came from, the pivot, which enabled us to connect those grassroots sporting teams to brands for sponsorship. It was multiple coffees, multiple meetings, without having to, without actually writing a line of code. So,
and to what you thought people wanted, to what people told you they actually wanted, what was the difference, or was there a difference there? I'm interested to know. Like, did you think that what the market wanted was what they actually wanted, or was it completely different?
Yeah, I think there's a number of components that you can talk to there. One is, we were an apparel company at the time. So apparel businesses, they're undercutting on price. So we thought price was a big piece. That if Sportility dipped our hands into our pocket, then and either gave a cheaper price or actually sponsored the club, then we would win. So we thought that before we actually dug deeper into the questions. The second part was, we thought that they wanted a pure play e-commerce apparel experience, not anything else from a tech side. And what we were hearing was that they really wanted more things that they could do, not just apparel. They wanted access to us to sponsor them, and for them to submit their ability to get sponsored. They wanted to be able to manage their club on the platform, communicate with their members, all things that have led us down this pathway of where we're going, hence the name Sportility, sports utility. So there were a lot of things that we heard that we knew that we wanted to solve, and we wanted to get down that pathway. But we actually led with apparel, and we'd led with teamwear. I guess some of the other things as well was around the lead times and the overpromise, underdeliver piece for apparel. What we understood was that teamwear was always arriving late from clubs, or it was wrong, or sizes would be wrong. But what that actually led to was actually the communication between the apparel supplier and the brand. If we solved the communication piece on the platform, allowing clubs to pre-plan, then there's no delay, there's no delivery inexperience, there's a delivery experience. So what we did was we actually set out and listened to all of those customers. How would you like, in an ideal world, in a North Star, how would you like to manage your club if you were to have a relationship with Sportility when it comes to teamwear, when it comes to everything associated with club? And we just listened. And the feedback came, unanimously, it was, we don't have the time to go out and chase names, numbers, sizes, payments. We don't have time to go out and chase sponsors, local businesses or brands to get sponsorship. And before we even sit down and have a conversation with you. So it's all good and well that you guys can design teamwear. That's awesome. Like, great platform. But we can't even have a conversation with you about price until we've got sponsorship. And the reason why we have the price conversation isn't because we want you guys to discount. It's quite simply because we can't afford it. And that is really what led us down that pathway of, well, Sportility doesn't have to dip our hands into our pocket for discounting. We can actually go and source that brand subsidy and brand budget ourselves, which effectively is a discount, without us hurting our margins, without us having to compete with the other brands in the apparel industry. So that all came from customer feedback. We did not set out to build a grassroots sports marketing platform. That's for sure.
It's quite an interesting evolution that you've taken, mate. Like you said, you started off as, bare bones apparel company. And I believe that's how I came across you in the first place. Before it was Sportility, I was the admin person for our, local basketball team, and we wanted to put a cool looking uniform together. And I sort of reached out, and I used you guys. I was a customer back in the day before it was Sportility. But now it is something vastly different and all-encompassing, based on, like you said, all the feedback that you received through the industry that you're sort of targeting. And now you also mentioned going forward that there is a new, challenge to face, and this is with the unprecedented landscape that we're sort of facing around COVID. So talk to us about evolution and what that looks like in the near to short term.
Yeah, absolutely. I think evolution in Sportility is certainly ingrained in our culture. It's been something that we've quite literally written into the culture and values of our team, and it's something that we look for in individuals as well. But as you mentioned, the unprecedented times that we're in with COVID-19 having such a massive impact across grassroots sporting clubs. And right now, as we say, this is the first day of those stage 4 lockdowns in Victoria, completely shut down. No sporting clubs or team is playing right now in Victoria, which is a sad day for grassroots sports. But it's something that I look at as an opportunity for us to rise to the occasion and actually step up to the plate to actually be one of the organizations that solves this problem for grassroots sports. There's about 70,000 clubs and teams across the country that, if we don't generate over $1 billion in funding across the country over the next 6 to 12 months, then there's going to be a lot of grassroots sporting clubs that don't make it out of COVID-19. And that comes down to the lack of national brand support. And that being said, there is a lot of amazing brands that are putting money in their hands in their pocket to support grassroots sports. And you've seen them come onto Sportility, Optus, Home Loans, 86-400, Career One, Petsio. There's the list goes on. And I think for us, where the evolution for Sportility is around access to participation. For us, it's around making participation in sports accessible regardless of your financial status. So for us, we're setting out to build tools and technology that solves this problem. Apparel is one component of the grassroots sports participation experience. We've done a number of trials and tests and learns with state sporting bodies and national bodies around registration and the ability to register through our platform. Connecting national brands to larger participation programs, not just through teamwear, but events. And we saw that through the Athletics New South Wales and Run New South Wales virtual run series that we held with them during COVID-19, and hopefully many more of those series come about in the next few weeks and months. So for us, the evolution of Sportility is the place that grassroots sporting teams connect to brands for sponsorship, regardless of teamwear. It's online stores, it's registration, it's your club. It's essentially the home for grassroots sports and sponsorship. And for us, we've evolved now from being an apparel provider to a text solution. We're seeing grassroots sporting clubs coming back to us, especially during COVID, where they set up an online store through our platform. They had placed brands on their teamwear. They were able to design their kit in 3D, place those products into an online store, which was free through our tech solution, and then market that product or their online store to their community and generate thousands of dollars in profit, not revenue, profit. There is thousands of dollars in revenue, but the key that I wanted to focus on there is profit, because traditionally grassroots sports, when we're talking about apparel, it's not a profit center, it's actually a cost center. So for us, it's about providing more and more tools that grassroots sports can become profitable and sustainable without actually relying on government funding. Government funding is great. And we are very lucky in this country that the government has supported in multiple industries and multiple areas, especially in sports. But we also have some of the most profitable corporations and supportive local businesses that grassroots sports can stand on its own 2 feet if it's run well, and if there is what we call mutual value exchange. Both sides of the equation are given value. Grassroots sports aren't just putting their hand out for money and saying thank you very much. Now they've got their money. They've put their hand out for money, but they've also given back value to the brand that they've aligned with, and vice versa. The brand has put their hand in their pocket, provided value, but in return, they're getting value from that grassroots sporting club. So what we're focused on is that mutual value exchange through technology here locally and ultimately globally as well.
And I think it's so nice to hear. And, when people think about just business in general, a lot of times they're thinking, how can I make the most money? How do we get the most out of this person or that client, or vice versa, or the other way around? Somebody's trying to get a really good deal that just benefits them. But what's really, really cool about the model is the mutual value exchange. And I think that's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, why you've been able to progress the way you've progressed, because people are actually finding value in all areas of it and mutually finding that value. And I think it's really cool, man, that that's where the focus is going for you guys, because frankly, I wish more people did that.
No, I appreciate it. I think that's where it comes down to, right? Is what's in it for all of our customers. I think we at the heart of our business talk about the feedback that we get from our customers, but also the value that we can ultimately provide for our customers. So if our customers are generating profit, then we're benefiting. But also if our customers are generating profit, that also means that our brand partners are benefiting as well, because they're getting that awareness, that exposure, that activation, that engagement of our grassroots sporting community from their brand support. So everyone in that value equation is winning. Sportility wins, club wins, brand wins, and if the value equation is lopsided, then more often than not, we actually see it doesn't work, which is really exciting for the model, that everyone actually in the equation, in the experience, or in a particular deal has to win. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So it's a rising tides lifts all ships scenario.
Oh, dude, you just took the words out. I was about to say, it sounds like very much like a rising tide scenario.
Yeah.
Instead of like what's in it for me, it's like what's in it for all of us, and then the tide is rising. It's really cool.
Correct.
And it's very much, I guess, the new paradigm of business that, most new sort of entrepreneurs or businesses are looking to these days. They're finding, like you said, that the traditional model of simply making money or profits and generating profits from at someone else's expense is a very short-term endeavor indeed. So no, it's great to see, I guess, a little bit of an insight into I guess the grassroots sporting industry and how much more there is behind the scenes. What I want to, I guess, draw you back to, a thread that is interesting to me is that it all started through this love of basketball for you, right? And we can sort of trace the steps back from a very early age of playing basketball to where you are today, being an entrepreneur and giving back into the grassroots, which sort of started it all for you. And it seems like a lifelong passion for you, right?
Correct.
But there is also this thread that's it's like a delicate balancing act for people who sort of talk about entering business into the industry which they're passionate about, right? So a lot of people I know, a friend of mine would say that he knows a lot of mechanics that none of them likes cars because they just work on cars all day. So talk to me about that experience for you, and how has that changed for you at all, and what is your sort of take on it at this point in time?
It's a great question. I think for me, the passion is unwavering. I think every day it's there. That's what gets me out of bed every single morning. That I quite literally love the life that I've created and the career and the vision that I'm setting out to solve. My ultimate goal is to make sports participation free for everyone in the world. Right. If I can do that, if tools are down and I have a look around the world and kids and adults can play sports for free, then I've done my job. So for me, I think the passion evolves every day in different pathways, and it takes a different shape in its different world, in every stage that we go through, in whether it's business or personally as well. So, we talk about that thread of basketball that hasn't changed throughout my life. I still have a mega passion for basketball. But what I would say is what the passion for sports and what we're doing with Sportility has allowed me to learn and hone other crafts. So I've spoken previously before around climbing and bouldering. It's something that I took to most recently in probably only 3 years ago, that I've found an immense passion for, that I can draw a lot of parallels between business and climbing and bouldering, in terms of fear and problem solving and those sorts of things. But then more recently, it's that experience and that passion for that I've just developed for surfing, which is a sport that I never even picked up when I was a kid, and it's quite literally the hardest sport I think I've ever tried in my life. I think personally, I was one of those kids that you put a football, a basketball, a cricket bat, a tennis racket in my hands, I can pick it up. That I was just I'm an athlete. I was able to play sports. You put me on a surfboard. I mean, it's the hardest sport I think I've ever tried. And what's so amazing about it, and I think if we go back to this thread of perseverance and challenges, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and it's that I am quite literally trying to conquer surfing right now, because it's one of those things that I can draw back to business, in that paddling into a wave, or even just paddling out past the breakers, is a skill in itself. Building up your paddling fitness, then trying to work out how you actually time yourself to paddle onto a wave, and then once you've done that, once you've done all of those key things, you can then start learning how to stand up. So for me, I think the passion for sports, the passion for what we do every day in sports, is taking a different shape. And I'm learning a lot of the different elements as to why I do what I do. It's not just about basketball anymore. Basketball is what started it, but it's actually all of those different sports that potentially the atoms in the different sports all over the world are having themselves, and why they get out of bed every day, in terms of playing football, jumping on a surfboard, riding a skateboard. And so being able to experience all of those different sports now, is actually giving me a greater passion to solve the problem that we have with sportility. Because it's such an amazing gift to be able to give someone the ability to play sport. There's so many lessons that you can learn out of sport. And if we don't provide that gift for kids at a young age, or even adults that potentially weren't able to participate in sport, then how do they learn these lessons of perseverance or team camaraderie or competitive nature or loss, right? So yeah, the passion's changing, but it's certainly unwavering.
Yeah, beautiful, man. And I think that the common, I guess, theme that I'm getting from your story and everything that you're telling us is that there seems to be like a great, I guess, sense of awareness as to what these, activities in life or moments in life or circumstances or situations have to offer for you in terms of, lessons and teachings. Now, aside from, surfing and bouldering and basketball and things like that, like what else have you, leveraged on to assist you, through this journey? Because like, not only through business, but, through life in general, people inevitably are going to need, some tools to assist them in facing whatever it is that they, that is in front of them on their journey, right?
So, I mean, I think throughout this journey, it's certainly something that I've always talked about, that ability to reflect on the past, not dwelling in the past. I think there's a difference between dwelling and reflecting. Taking the learnings and the lessons, they might be negatives. I might have failed in a particular instance, and I think the theme that I actually draw out of a lot of the learnings that I come at is it's okay to fail, and actually failing is where some of the most brilliant ideas and concepts and experiences have come out of in my life. Failing initially with the teamwear business led us to Sportility, which is growing and scaling. Potentially failing in basketball has led me to not focusing on the career in basketball, but focusing on the career in business. So yes, the reflection is one thing that I often look back on is reflect in a positive. What learnings can I take out of that experience? Whether it's in the short term or the longer term, even taking time to look back on certain life events. The other thing that I've actually learned, and this is something that I learned when I was 19. I took a gap year when I was 19, 20, just to figure out where I wanted to go in my life. I was lost. I'd come back from my high school exchange. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was traveling. I went traveling through the USA. I went traveling through through Asia. I went traveling through the Middle East, and the whole way through those travels, I was in that moment. There was nothing behind me. There was nothing in front of me. It was in that moment, and a lot of people talk about carpe diem and all of those sorts of things, but quite literally in that time, I was thinking, how can I continue to live a life where in this moment in time, I'm enjoying. I'm thinking about how I can make the best out of this moment from my experiences that I've had in the past, but not worrying about the future, not worrying about what if. So for me, and it comes from as I mentioned when I started out in this podcast, was I come from a Jewish background, and there's a saying in Hebrew, "Chia et harega," which is live in the moment, and I actually got that tattooed close to my heart. And that's something that I take with me quite literally every single day. It's live in the moment. Take the learnings that you've got in the past. The past is the past. Reflect on the past, but take what you've got now and how you make that the best out of your life. Whether it's you're going through a business failure, your profits are down, or your revenue is down, or you might not be able to succeed. I know there's a lot of businesses that are out there right now that are just trying to make it through COVID. And there's unfortunately a lot of businesses that might not make it through COVID. But it's about how can you take all of the learnings and the lessons from the past to make the best out of this time, without dwelling on the past. And I quite literally did that in my personal life. As we started, pre-recording, I was talking about moving out of Sydney to Copacabana Beach, which, if you had have said to me 12 months ago that I'm going to live on the central coast of Sydney, I would have laughed. But I was able to get an experience where I was walking on the beach. I had an amazing lifestyle. I was getting up early. I was, living at my family's beach house during the early stages of COVID. And I decided, let's live in this moment. Let's create this culture and create the life that I want to live on and the lifestyle that I want to live now. Why not? And so I guess the power of reflection and the power of living in the moment, but also knowing to persevere through the tough times, has actually taught me that I can actually make decisions and take risks, and it'll be okay. Because even going through the really, really tough times, the tough times aren't so bad. The rock bottom isn't so bad. And if you've got a great friendship group, if you've got a great support network, and if you've got the confidence in yourself to take risks, then it's amazing what's on the other side of taking that risk. So yeah, those are kind of the things that I take with me. So if you kind of draw back to it, it's living in the moment, it's perseverance, but it's also that piece around the reflecting on the past.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful lessons people can take from you there, Adam. And in terms of reflection, that's something that Les and I talk about a lot, and actually using it as a tool. Because you said, there is a big difference between reflection and dwelling, and that's for sure. I think a lot of people get caught up in the dwelling aspect of it and how things have gone wrong. But if you actually reflect and come out with a lesson, I think that's a sign of reflection instead of dwelling, right? And there's so much utility in that.
Yeah.
And living in the moment, man. I was someone who always had my eye on the future, like constantly. And I just was never any type of satisfied. And it's been very recent for me to live in the moment. So, to hear about the life that you've led, the life that you're building for yourself, and that living in the moment has helped you to achieve that life. And, your recent experiences even of choosing to move to the coast and how can you live in that moment, I think is something that's really important for people to consider. And it makes me think about, being into basketball. I'm sure you've probably seen The Last Dance.
Yeah, correct.
And
indeed.
Yeah. And out of everything in that documentary, there was one part that stuck out for me and keeps replaying back in my mind, just keeps coming back to me. And I can't even remember who said it, but it was like near the end, and I won't ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but someone said that no matter what was going on for Jordan, he was always in the moment, and that was his superpower. He was always in the moment. He was always present. And there's something to that, right? And I think, hearing that from you, hearing that in that context, and, things that Les has been trying to teach me for a long time, there's definitely something to that for people to consider. So I just want to bring that up for people and really hone in on it. And it seems like a good way to be living your life. And it's hard for people though. It's hard for people.
It is hard because we live in a world where it's now, right? I want things now. I want the next thing. Where you get the latest mobile phone, and then 6 months later or 12 months later, the next one comes out. So you want that one, and then there's constant looking forward to the future, the big house, the next car, the nice watch, whatever it may be, right? We live in this really disposable world, so it's hard not to look forward to the future. But I think one thing that I've really tried to come back to is how awesome is it right now, right? Even though if you think about all of the horrible things that are going on in the world, and there are a lot of things, it's hard to be, really, really kind of living in that moment right now. I had probably 3 or 4 conversations yesterday with clients and partners in Melbourne that they're quite depressed right now. And it's hard not to be living in that moment. But if you do take a look outside, if you do take just that moment in time, you've got that roof over your head, I'm looking out my window right now, blue skies. It really is the ability to just take that breath and go, how good is it what I've got right now? Because if you take that breath, you can take stock of where you are. You don't have to think about the future. You don't have to think about the past, but you can certainly reflect on what you've done, the decisions you've made that have led you down this pathway, that ultimately you'll continue to make more decisions. You'll continue to go down different pathways, but that's for the future, and it's out of your control. So why think about the past and why think about the future when you can't control that? The only thing that you control right now is what you're doing. And I think that's a really, really powerful mentality for a lot of people. You look at I'm glad you brought up Michael Jordan, because those similar traits between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, even you listen to Roger Federer talk about in the moment. All of those great athletes were able to be present in that time, not looking to the future, not dwelling on that last shot or that last basket that they missed. They're in that moment. The next one is theirs. So I think that's a really, really powerful thing that a lot of people can take away in personal life, friends and family, but also business as well.
Yeah. And I think one more thing to add to that as well is like what you do in the moment now is what can lead to a better future and your greatness. Correct. But if you're constantly thinking about that thing ahead and you're not in the moment, you're not really giving yourself the best chance, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think it's like you said, it's a beautiful perspective to look at things and look at life in general through, right? And what I've taken away from this, and we've mentioned, a lot of different themes. You've told your story and your perspective on, the tools that you've used, reflection and, being in the moment. The reference to the Hebrew saying, and all the plethora of, high performing elite sports people who, use this sort of mentality to go through life in. And these themes, they seem like they are repeating through our conversations in this podcast, because the people that we talk to, they all follow the similar thread. They may say it in a different way, but it's a similar thing. And the references Shaun was saying is that I'm very much a follower and I guess a student of Eastern philosophy, and these things, they teach that exact thing, and these things are thousands and thousands of years old, and the teachings are still true to this day. That is that what we experience in life really is this moment right here, right now. There is nothing else.
Correct.
Correct. The past and the future are both mental projections back and forward on this linear spectrum of time.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But there is nothing else really.
Correct.
So if we waste this moment in worrying about things past or present, or even in the future, then the moment is already gone,
Correct. And it is so beautifully said, because when you take that moment and really enjoy it, and whether it's enjoy it, whether it's take action, whether it's plan, and like you said, Shaun, that activity of what you do now can lead to something so great. It's so powerful. The sending of an email, the taking action, the sending of that email in that point in time could lead to a potential deal, could lead to an investment opportunity, could lead to a mentor, could lead to a new friend. That action that you do in that moment in time. So it's said so beautifully in that it is just a mere ability and to enjoy this moment in time, and make the best or the most out of what you have right now.
And I would also like to add, I'm the meditation teacher, meditation advocate, that even the act of not doing anything and sitting is going to yield you, some sort of positive outcome, if that's what you intention by the act of sitting, right? So it's not always simply about doing. This is this beautiful polarity and dynamic of hustle and flow in these conversations. But I would just like to highlight that as well. It's more about your intention and your purpose behind the action or inaction in the moment,
Yeah, so beautifully said. I think it certainly goes back to part of the reasons why we've made a lot of the decisions that we have in business, but also personally. Being able to take that time where, I think as I reflect on my drive from home to the office was a 5-minute drive. Now that drive, I could have been, I could have had a driver yell at me. I could have had a dog run out in front of me, sat in what would normally be 15 minutes worth of traffic for a 5-minute drive. And it's led to this stress that reflects all the way, or has a ripple effect all the way through my day. Taking just that small shift on my day now, I'm up early. I'm down at the beach. I watch the waves for an hour. Take my dog for a walk, and take that time to just be. I'm not sending any emails. I'm not making any phone calls. I'm not thinking about the day ahead. I'm just thinking about the moment right now. And I think that has just completely shifted the way that I approach my day. I'm approaching my day with so much more clarity by simply being. And I think that's why, it resonates so well with what you just said there, because that theme of being and sitting is so hard to do in this day and age.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's almost this blessing in disguise when we look at the current climate of the world, that we are all sort of forced to be a little bit still and just to, recede inward a little bit and reflect and actually be with ourselves and slow down a little bit. And perhaps, this is a little bit of a sign for us to, take stock of what this means and take the opportunity to actually, do the things like you're saying, mate, and take a nice long walk with your dog and just be conscious in the moment. Like, don't put your earphones in, just be and walk and feel each step, feel the sun on your skin. And, like you said, it's like that is the most, beautiful and nourishing things in life that can, I guess, spark and promote any sort of innate intuition and clarity for yourself to actually dive back into the busyness of the modern world,
Correct.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I'd like to talk about, Adam, which is like a feeling I'm getting from you and from things that you've explained while we've been talking here today, is you seem to have quite a good sense of gratitude, just in general. And is that something you're aware of yourself? Is that something people tell you about? And if you are aware of it, how did you come to this point?
I think gratitude was something that I was taught from quite a young age, but it stems back from my parents. Of really early on, they were teaching this. So I'm one of 5 boys, and they taught all of us to be thankful, to be thankful and appreciative of the experiences that you have, and but more importantly, the life that we have. We're very fortunate for the life that we have. So a lot of that stems through a lot of the experience that I had, and this feeling of gratitude for me comes back to all of the failures, because it's humbling when you fail, when you're at real rock bottom. What some people perceive as rock bottom might be other people's mid-tier, and then vice versa. Some people's rock bottoms are really, really rock bottom compared to somebody else, right? So for me, going through those humbling experiences of having we've all had relationship issues that don't go, or you're heartbroken, or your business partner betraying you in some respects, or your the deal doesn't go your way, or potentially losing an opportunity. And all of those experiences are actually quite humbling, because when you have those experiences of failure, or those experiences of rock bottom, and you resurge out of those experiences and keep going, you're grateful to keep going. So for me, I remember vividly when we thought that Sportility was going to fail, quite literally going to fail. And there's been many times that we've felt as though is today the day? Is today the day that we shut the doors? But there was one particular moment in time where my business partner had walked out and made a decision that he was heading down a different career path, and for me that was a betrayal. It was. But in reflection, it's actually not a betrayal. It's the direction he wanted to take in life, But for me, that felt like rock bottom, and I was at this moment where I was sitting at home, just almost feeling as glum as I could ever be, and I decided to pick myself back up because I learned from the past where, hey, push through this. You can, it's not all over. We were trying to make, when we looked at the financials, when we looked at the model, it just wasn't working. It just wouldn't work. And anyone that would have come in and looked at the books or looked at the way that, like, you need to shut your business now. We just found every angle and every way that we could just make it work. We wouldn't take no for an answer. So coming out of that and being able to be where I am today, I just have so much gratitude, because not everyone is able to do that. There are some people that do go through depression and anxiety, especially founders, right? This mentality that people have around entrepreneurs is that we have to win every time, and we have to raise the next $10 million deal, or we have to go and, there's this belief that when you start a business, it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and we're going to be the next, Mark Zuckerberg, and look at them, they're billionaires, right? And there's this quite literally founder mentality or founder syndrome of, well, hang on a second, John over there he's doing $10 million in capital raising or revenue. Why am I? Oh, I'm a failure. And there's this depression and anxiety that comes through. So I'm actually so humbled that and grateful that we are continuing on, and the journey does continue. So for me, it stems back to my childhood, but it also stems back to all those learnings along the way that allow me to appreciate quite literally every day that Sportility continues or the journey continues. But also, I'm also fortunate to be surrounded by some amazing entrepreneurs and investors and mentors that are able to provide me with the guidance and advice that when I can't solve a problem, I'm able to go to them for. So I think it's this. There's a lot of people put successful business people on this pedestal that they're amazing. And I traditionally did that as well, but I'm actually quite humbled that I've got this perspective of really, really successful business leaders we're talking businesses that are global CEOs and national CEOs that are on my advisory network that I'm able to draw advice and experience from. But then I'm also able to impart that experience. I'm grateful to take that experience on, but also impart that experience on through Start-Up Bootcamp to startups that are going through that journey. So yeah, I think that's where that gratitude comes from, is that you can actually continue on that journey without giving up, and go through the hard times and come through it with positive outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that's the gratitude to be able to walk the journey is that's a beautiful way for us to perhaps end a really nice conversation with you, mate. Really nice thread for people to take away and just have a think about. Be grateful for the ability to simply be on the journey, and whether that's in business or just life in general, right? This is a blessing in all respects, and it's all about the way that we perceive it through our own eyes, right? So yeah, it was awesome to speak with you today, Adam. I'd love to give you the floor, and if you'd like to promote anything or share where people can find you, mate.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Shaun and Leslie. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. And I've been a listener of the Hustle and Flow podcast for a little while now. So an absolute pleasure to be on the podcast. If anyone does want to find me on whether it's social media or via Sportility is sportility.co, and you can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at adam.hyman.
Awesome. And we'll throw those links up into the show notes, mate. Shaun, where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, easiest place to find me is just on Instagram, guys. So Shaun_Coop. That's SHAUN_COOP. And how about you, Les?
Yep, you can find me on my website, findingspace.co, and also through socials. It's on Facebook and Instagram at findingspace.co. You can also get in touch with Shaun and I for the podcast. Any questions or queries about this particular episode or past episodes, or you'd like to come on as a guest, it's the Hustle and Flow podcast at gmail.com.
Cool. And just want to take a moment to acknowledge Adam for what you're doing for grassroots sports and also for other entrepreneurs out there. It's really cool to see what you're doing and to learn about how your business has evolved and how you've come to be where you are today. And I think people will really take some nuggets out of the conversation today that'll help them. So thank you for being here and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to do what I do every day. And an absolute pleasure to be on the podcast today, guys. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you again. And we just ask a humble request from us. If you're listening today and you took something from the conversation that resonated with you, a little nugget, please just share it with one other person that you think would benefit as well. That's why we have these conversations, bring people to you that we think, can shed a different perspective, talk about their story, and you can take something from it that will help you too. So until next time, guys.
See you guys.